Hello YouTube, welcome back to my channel. So in the last tutorial we left off by creating a simple website, created a server, and then created a simple hello world website, right, web page. So in this tutorial we're going to continue our further knowledge into Flask. In this tutorial we're going to go ahead and you're going to be building you're going to be building the application structure for our project. So we're going to go ahead and actually lay the application structure. Now if you go on the internet you can find people doing this in different way, but the best way is what I'm going to be showing you. So let's get started. So let me just open up my Visual Studio Code where we left off from last time, and then I'm going to, in here in the root directory, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it application. Okay, this way our this is supposed to be a folder. Okay, so let me just get rid of that, delete that, and then move to trash, and then let me make sure that I click on the folder. So this will be an application. Okay, we are going to store our application itself. So inside of there, let's go inside of there, and in there we're going to create two folders again. So we're going to create two folders. So the first one is going to be templates, right? Make sure it's called templates, no uppercasing. Okay, it's called templates, not templates. If you get the spelling wrong, this will give you issues along the way. Okay, so now let's go ahead and actually create another one called static. Okay, make sure it's also named exactly static. Okay, make sure then follow the naming 1 to 1. All of it is lowercase static, all of it is lowercase templates. Okay, so now that you have done that, let's go ahead and create two Python files. Okay, we're going to make this into a module, right? A package module. So we're going to create the underscore the data init.py file in here. Okay, so we're going to go in here, and then inside of the application, you're going to create data init and then data.py. Okay, so when I say data, I mean underscores in Python. Okay, so that's what we call data, because from the data methods. Okay, so they're called also magic methods. Okay, so now that we have done that, let's go ahead and actually create one more Python file in here. We're going to call this routes. So these are going to be our routes, right? We're going to call it routes.py, and then data init __.py. so that's what you're going to create. So now that we have those, we're going to create one more thing. So inside of the root directory, we're going to create another file. We're going to call it run.py. Okay, so run.py is where we're going to actually run our application. So let me just show you. It might be a bit confusing, but just follow along. Trust me, this is actually very simple. So we're going to go into our data and the init file. So let me just open up a test. This is what we did from last time, right? So we're going to copy everything from the point of initializing the app. We're going to copy that, and we're going to move it into the underscore init file. We're going to move that in there, and then at the very bottom, you're going to say from application, which is the name of the folder, whatever you call this folder. You're going to be import routes. Okay, that's what you're going to do. And then let's go back to our test file, and then in here we can see this is where we are going to be running our file, right? You're going to move this into the running part. So we're going to copy this. Let me just close that, and I'm going to cut this from here, and I'm going to go into the run, and I'm going to paste that in there. Okay, so now that I'm going to paste that in there, let me just close these things up. Let me paste that in there, Control V. Now that I have pasted in there, okay, so now that I have pasted that in there, I'm going to come up here. I'm going to say from application import. You're going to be importing app. The reason we're importing app is because we are using it down here. That's why we're going to be importing app in this folder. Okay, so I don't know, these things are really annoying. Keeps popping up. So let me just close those guys down. Okay, so now that you have done that, sorry for that distraction. So now that you have imported the application, we have from application, we have imported the app, which is just the instance of the Flask class. Okay, so now in the run, we're going to run it if underscore name equals to string underscore main underscore. We're going to be running our application in debug mode. Okay, and then in the routes, it says for now the routes is empty. So the route is where we're going to keep all our routes. In the last tutorial, I told you what routes were, right? Routes are just these endpoints, and I'm going to copy this right now, cut it, and then move it into our routes, and then I'm going to paste it in here. So now we are within our routes. We can see that we need this app, right, to use this decorator. Again, if you don't know what decorators are, I have a whole series on decorators on my channel. You can check that out. So I'm not going to talk in depth about decorators. For now, I'm just going to say from application, we're going to be importing our app, because we're going to be using the app decorator right here. So now that you have done that, everything should be set up. So we can just go to our, I think I've pressed some keys and let's open some Jupyter notebooks. Let me just delete them for now. Yeah, So sorry for that distraction again. So now that we have that there, let's go ahead and actually run our application. So to run the application, let me just remove everything from the test, and I can even get rid of the test. So I'm going to delete it and move this to trash. So now our application just looks like this. So just delete this one as well. This is just from Jupyter Notebook, sorry. So now we have our application structure right here. Okay, so we have the applications folder, the VNV folder, and then we also have the run.py within the root directory of our project folder. So instead of the applications, we have two folders, the static, and then there is a templates. We also have two Python files, the _init_.py and the routes.py. So in the _init.py, we are going to just instantiate our Flask object by creating this. You're simply going to also import these routes. We are importing the routes here due to some circular imports that we want to avoid. That's why we're importing this thing right here. So now that we have done that, we can go ahead and go into our routes. We have simply pasted in our routes. Okay, I can find the routes here. The routes didn't show up. I don't know why. I'm just delete this. The routes didn't show up, so let's go ahead and actually create it. For some reason the routes doesn't show up. They paste it in the wrong thing. No, it just happened. Maybe I didn't paste it, so let me just go back and create it also. So we're going to be importing I think I deleted it. Okay, so I just press Z and I brought it back. So now you can see here we have the applications. From applications we're going to import app, and then you're going to say that router the decorator here, and then you're simply going to return this HTML tag. Okay, so now it was everything it was at this as it was before, but we just spread things into different files. Okay, so now we can go ahead and actually run this. So let me just go back to my terminal, and then I'm going to clear the terminal, then do ls. You can see now I have the Python run.py and the application, and then the VNV folder right there. So I'm going to do Python 3, and I'm going to run.py, and I'm going to run this. You can see it started our development server. So I'm going to go to the browser and then refresh this. We get back the same results. Okay, so that's how we just arrange the application, the structure of our application. Now that's the best way, instead of doing it just having many files that are not organized. Okay, so this is one of the best ways you can do it. So now that we have that, let's go ahead and actually return. Let's go ahead and actually look at templates. Okay, so now I have told you that we don't usually return this HTML right here, right? We return actually a HTML file. So how do we tell Flask to actually return a HTML file rather than this string? Okay, so if a person hits this URL, so to do that, you need to say from Flask we're going to be importing a render template. Okay, so we're going to be importing render template. So I'm going to just copy this for now, and then I'm going to go into the templates folder, and then I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to call it index.py. okay, so this is actually HTML, index.html. So I'm going to create that HTML in here, and I'm going to simply paste this right here. Okay, and I'm going to remove these tags. Okay, so now this just put it our HTML instead of a HTML file. Now let me just go back to routes, and then in here I'm going to say return a render template, and I'm going to say the name of the template.html. okay, so the Flask will automatically go into the templates directory. That's why it's supposed to name it specifically templates, because Flask in the background is specifically going to look for this template. So if you don't name it, it's going to look for this folder, okay, called templates. So if you don't name it templates, it won't be able to find your HTML file. That's why you have to name it templates. So if after naming it template, if you want to return a certain HTML file, you just have to say render and then the name of the HTML file. So in the background, Flask will go into templates and then locate the file paths that way. Okay, so it does that in the background. So in here, we're simply going to return a HTML file rather than our string of HTML that you're returning. So now let's check the server. The server is running. Let's go back in here and then refresh. We got back the same output. Okay, let me just change it, maybe to confuse. Okay, let me just say let me just create a h2 tag, and then say this is from the just say HTML file. Okay, let me just say that this is from the HTML file, and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to refresh. Now we can see this is from the HTML file. So this is actually coming from the HTML file and no longer our string HTML thing that we are returning previously. So now that you have done this, let's go ahead and show you how you can actually build have more than one template. The reason why we are going to use templates, let me just show you. For example, let me just remove all of this, and I'm simply going to create a whole HTML file here. I'm going to create a shift and then the 1 key, and then you press enter. This will generate for you the basic HTML structure. If you don't know it, you can just copy this, pause the video and copy this, or you can just find it online. Okay, so this is our title, right? So now let's leave the title there for now. So let's imagine that we have something, let's say that this is the title, right? And then we want the title to be constant for all our files. Okay, so I'm going to create another file here, and I'm going to call it layout.html. So I'm going to create in here HTML file. I'm going to call it layout.html, just like that. And in layout.html, I'm simply going to create the basic HTML structure again. So in here, I want my title of the application to be expense income, just like this. Okay, and I'm going to copy this and I'm going to move it right here. So I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it right here. Okay, so now let's imagine that let's create another route for our layout just for now. Let's go to our routes, and then I'll be able to explain this to you. So to create a route, again, we just have to say at symbol and then app.route, and then in here you need to specify the route. So I'm going to call it layout. Okay, and I'm going to make sure I get the spelling of layout right. So this is layout, and then down here I'm going to call def layout. Let me just call it so in here I'm going to give the name of this function to just be layout. Okay, and I'm going to I'm not going to take in any parameters. I'm just going to pass return render template, and I'm going to say the template is going to be layout.html. So I'm going to save that. Go ahead and save that, and then go to your browser, check if we did stop running. So I'm going to run this again. So it has started running. Go back to my browser and refresh this. We just get back nothing, right? Because we changed the HTML contents. So let me just go back here to keep some HTML content so we can know which page we are in. So I'm going to go h2, and then I'm going to say index file. This is an index file, and then I'm going to go to layout, and I'm going to say in here h2 again, and I'm going to say layout file, just like that. So I'm going to save this, and I'm going to go back into my browser, and I'm going to refresh this. We have layout index app because we are the base URL. So I'm going to go to layout, just type in there layout. We are in layout.file. So how do you know this URL? The name of this URL I told you is the route, right? So what you have to type in this, right? That's why we keep / and then that's followed by the name of that specific route. So if I type in / route after the base URL, the root URL, I'm going to get that specific template being returned by that function. Okay, the decorated function. So now that we have that, let me show you why we need to use the concept of template inheritance in Flask. Okay, so for example, I have this title here called expense income, and I also have this title here called expense income. So where does this title show on my page? So the title shows up here. So even if I navigate to the base URL, I also have the expense income. So let's imagine if I come back also, I also have the expense income. Let's imagine that you have like 1,000 of these files. We have built a very large web application having hundreds of pages. So you want to change this. For example, maybe something happened and you want to change the title, so you have to go to each individual file and change this title. Now that is very almost unmanageable, right? Almost unmanageable. So to avoid that situation, we have a template known as a concept known as template inheritance, meaning that you just write a template once that other templates can inherit from. So if you want to change a certain something that applies to all the other pages, you will have to change it in one location. You don't have to change it everywhere else. So what do I mean by this? So for example, I'm just going to leave this as it is here, and I'm going to let the layout be our base, our parent template. Okay, so we're going to this the inheritance file, right? The index.html is going to inherit from the layout.html. So how do we do that? So for us to do that, we need to be able to specify something. So for example, I want to be for the whatever the web application is going to write, I want it to put it between the body of this. Okay, so I'm just going to say this curly braces to percentage signs, and then in here you can say block. Make sure I get the spelling right. Block content, just like that, and then I'm going to end here. So I'm going to also say end content. So this just be end block. So this is going to end our block right here. So what this basically does is that everything that is here, the title, the meta tags, everything else will be inherited, will be passed down to this template. Okay, I'm just going to show you in a second how it's going to be passed down. The only thing that this template is going to override whenever it inherits from this template is whatever it's whatever that is in between the opening and the closing blocks. Okay, so what do I mean by that? Let me just show you. So in here I'm going to remove everything, right? So we're going to reduce our code, since all of the HTML stuff is going to be inherited from this specific template. The only thing that we need to specify is what is needed to be in the body, since we are going to be overriding whatever is within the block content tag. Okay, so I'm going to just say percentage sign as we did, and then I'm going to say extends. So you say extends layout.html. so extends layout.html, this is the name of the file from which you're going to inherit from. Okay, so now we're going to override the content of the block, since that's the only part that we want to override. So we're going to say block content, just like that, and then you also need to also enter block content. So this is known as Ginger2. The syntax is known as Ginger2. Okay, so Ginger are syntax, template in syntax. So that's how if you open a block, you have to close that block. Okay, so we open the content block and you have to end that block. That's why we have to specify that. So what this basically does is that we are going to inherit everything that is not inside of this block. So all of these things and all of this starting stuff will be copied and pasted in here whenever the browser requests something from our server. So the server is going to copy that, paste it indirectly, paste it in, and generates all the HTML content for us without actually us having to actually write that thing. So the advantage of that is, let me just show you what I mean by that. First, for example, here I want to let me just say this is let me just put here some h2 tag, and I'm going to keep it lowercase, and I'm going to say this is layout file, just like that. This is layout file, and I'm going to copy this and I'm going to paste it right here. So let me just so now that you have typed in this at the h2 tag, so whatever is inside of this h2 tag will be overridden by whatever is going to be inside of here. So for example, in here, let me just type in a h1 tag, and I'm going to say this is the index file, just like that, and I'm going to save this. Now let me go to the server, checking the server is running. It says running, and I'm going to refresh this. So you can see this now. It says that this is layout file. Okay, we're in the base base of the parent template. Okay, now if I move to index file, it tells me this is the index file. But this is surprising, right? Because in the index file, the only thing that we wrote, we didn't write all that fancy HTML stuff in this file. We just wrote the extends and then block content. So what it's going to do is that all the other stuff from this file will be passed into this file. The only part that will change is whatever that is going to be between the opening and the closing tag. So even if you see here, I have layout dot this is a layout file, but in here I said that this is the index file. So this content is going to override the content here, but everything else is going to remain the same. So what's the advantage of this? For example, I want to change the title. I'm just going to change it only in one place. I'm just going to say let me make sure I change the right thing. Let me say I change the title to expense. Okay, so just like that. So if I change it to expense, then all the templates that inherit from the layout.html will also have their title changed. So meaning that I have 1000 templates that inherit from this layout.html. Instead of changing the title 1000 times in all the different files, I only have to change it in one place, and it's going to reflect in all the others. That is the power of template inheritance. So now you can see our title has changed even for the route. If I go to layout, and also the title has also changed. So the title have changed for both two of those files. Now it's just two files, right? Now whenever I'm building large web applications, these files will be hundreds of files. That's where the advantage of this really comes into play. So that's how we can go ahead and actually do some template inheritance in Django. Okay, so now let's say in here, instead of just saying expense, we want to say expense dash the name of the page on which we are on. So we can actually write the logic in here. So to do this, you're going to use again Ginger2. So I'm going to write in here some code. It's just like normal Python. Okay, so I'm going to say if title. I'm going to check if there's a title. I'm just show you what I mean. We'll pass in title, and then I told you if you open a block, you have to close that block. So I'm going to end the if block, okay, and then you're going to open an else block, and then I'm going to say else. So if there is a title, what you're going to do, we're going to say title expense. Let's call it expense app dash and then title. So this title is a variable, so we're going to have to use for variables, we use a double curly braces. So we're going to put double curly braces and we're going to put in their title. So if there's a title, we pass in title. I'm sure how to pass in title in a second. It's going to replace, it's going to put expense app and then dash title. Else, if there's no title, we're just going to say expense app. So I'm going to copy this and then I'm going to paste it right here under the else block. Okay, so just paste it right there and then indent that. This is just going to be that. Okay, so that's how it's going to be. So if there's a title, put in the title. Else, put in expense app dash title. Else, you just put in expense app. So that's how we are going to also write that logic. So whenever we pass this to all our templates are going to be inheriting from this. So let me just go back to the routes and I'm going to show you something. So in here we can pass in actually the variables to our HTML file. So we're going to pass in here title. I'm just going to say string. This is just going to be layout. Okay, this is going to be layout. Even here I'm going to pass in a title, and I'm just going to be this is going to be index. So that's all. So whenever we hit this route, the title will be passed in here, since this template is going to be inheriting from this template. So it's going to the title is going to be passed in. It's going to check if they have a title. If you have a title, it's going to put expense app dash title. Else, you're not going to have any title. You're just going to put in expense app. Okay, so for example, let me just remove the title from here and then I demonstrate to you. So now the layout doesn't have a template title. So if I go back to our server, then I run that server again and I refresh this, we can see we just have expense app. But whenever I go to the index, which is the base, you can see we have expense app dash index. So you can see that dynamic nature of our title changing. So that's one really powerful advantage. So now if I bring back this and then I paste it here, when I go to layout, it will also have a title as well. So if I go to layout, it should also have the title. Now you can see app expense app dash layout. So that's how it works. We can use the conditional statement right there within our template. So we can do, now you have seen template inheritance and how to pass variables and conditions to their Jinja 2 templates. Okay, that's what I want us to discuss for this tutorial. In the next tutorial, we'll start looking at building our database and then building our application from there. So if you find this tutorial helpful, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to my channel for more content like this. If any suggestions on how I can make this tutorial better for you guys, leave in the comment section below and let me know. So thanks for watching. See you in the next one. Keep safe.